All right, the pick is in with the 21st pick in the draft. The Eagles are taking wide receiver Jalen Reagor, a junior out of TCU. Of course, a lot of buzz going into this draft about the Eagles taking a receiver. Reagor, a little bit of buzz, but was really a name that came on towards as day one of the draft approached. Didn't run as well as people thought he would at the combine, but Eagles talked about that playing speed being different, and that is the difference that you can see when you watch his film. Fran, let's break it down. What do you like about this player?
I think that Jalen Reagor, you look at him, he's just going to provide the offense with a shot in the arm. That was one of the things that stood out to me about him watching him, not just this past year as a senior, Amy, but the year before, back in 2018, he was outstanding. He led the team in catches. He was the team MVP. He is a dynamic playmaker with and without the football. He can track the ball deep. He can create with the ball in his hands. This is an awesome pick. I'm really, really excited about Jalen Reagor. To me, he was one of the 3 or 4 best receivers in this class. I am thrilled that he's an Eagle.
Before I moved out of covering the high school ranks, I was at the opening, the 7-on-7, and he was there. And kind of as I was moving on from covering high school football, he was kind of coming in and making a name for himself. And I just remember his physicality, and you talk about a shot in the arm. This is a guy who has a lot of energy, and he was talking the whole time, but in the way that you just love it. I felt like he was so endearing to me, the kind of trash talk that I love to see from a guy. So certainly a confident guy who believes in himself. Fran, when you look at his journey, and I'm sure you've been watching him for several years as well in this TCU offense, how have you seen him develop to the point where he is now?
Yeah, I think really he's developed into a guy that was a do-it-all playmaker. I mean, he was moved into the backfield. He was given the ball on jet sweeps and reverses. He's got that gadget mentality and that usability. I think it's going to show up here in this Eagles offense with Doug Peterson, the creative play caller that he is. They're going to find ways to get him the football in space, but he wasn't just that guy. Despite the fact that he's 5'11" or so, he showed the ability to go up and win at the catch point, go up and win over people down in the red zone. Look, he dealt with bad quarterback. Let's just put it out, Frank. He dealt with bad quarterback play this past season. He had to make the most of it. The production dropped a little bit, but I think when you look at Jalen Reagor, whole skill set, this is a guy, again, he can track the ball deep over his shoulder, made some outstanding catches. The highlights you're going to see of Jalen Reagor over the next few days are going to be phenomenal because he made some outstanding grabs at all 3 levels of the field. Just a really fun player. And again, get the ball in his hands. He's got the juice to take it the distance every single time. Was an explosive punt returner over the course of his career. Wasn't always put there because of his role in the offense, but averaged something like 17, 18 yards per punt return. So this guy has the ability to impact offense. He can impact special teams. He's got speed. I mean, I know he didn't run as well as people expected, but this is a guy who's got long speed, able to beat defenses vertically, again, with or without the football.
Well, and again, listening to Andy Weidel earlier this week, he specifically talked about speed and how that play speed is a totally different type of speed that they evaluate. And when you talk about the quarterback play as well, he's not going to have to worry about bad quarterback play with this Eagles team. With that, let's turn to Ross Tucker for some more analysis of this pick. Ross, Jalen Reagor, wide receiver for the Eagles at pick number 21. What do you like about the selection?
Well, I'll tell you the first thing I don't like is that I played against his dad, which makes me feel really old. His dad, Monte Reagor, was an 8-year defensive lineman in the NFL. I love the Reagor pick, and hearing both of you talk about his combine just kind of makes me chuckle. So he didn't run as fast of a 40 time as people thought. Well, what does that tell you? That tells you when you actually watch him play in the games that he's fast as lightning, because people thought he might run a 4.3, 4.4. And by the way, when he had his virtual pro day, that is what he ended up running. You watch this kid play, he's electric. There's a reason, okay? He was Big 12 Freshman of the Year 3 years ago. Then his sophomore year in 2018, he was the team MVP for TCU and then had a terrific year again this year. That's 3 years where he's winning major awards. He gives you the deep threat that you wanted with the speed. He is a guy that can take the slants and the screens, the underneath stuff to the house because of his run after catch ability. He's an all-conference punt returner, kick returner, so he adds that element. And he's the guy, Amy, that they would give 8, 10, 12 carries to over the course of the year because he's that good with the ball in his hands. He's the guy that TCU wanted to get the ball in his hands because he's electric once he has it.
Yeah, and when you look at Jalen Reagor, I mean, the way that he's built as well. I was around him at the combine, and he composed himself really, really well, at the podium, and he's going to be really impressive. Eagles fans will hear from him later tonight, I believe. But I think when you look at Jalen Reagor physically, I mean, he is really, really impressive. So this is a guy that I think has the ability to win in a lot of different ways at the wide receiver position. Only lined up at one spot for the most part, or lined up to the far right of the formation. To me, I think he's got that ability to line up in the slot. When you look at his skill set and the ability to get in and out of breaks, the quickness to be able to separate, he can get off a jam, he can win with a two-way go. This is a guy I think that's
Well, and one of the things that I love about him is that he is a competitor. He's such a passionate guy. And like I said, that was one of the qualities that I saw from him when he was in high school. And I remember that it was kind of a surprise that he chose TCU because he had a lot of big schools after him and he was really able to make a name for himself. And again, Fran, you touched on that quarterback play, and to me it says so much about especially a receiver who is going to go to a school where you're not necessarily going to have the best quarterback throwing you the ball. You're not necessarily going to be an offense where you can shine, where you're really the one bringing the offense to that level. And Ross, I'll go to you with this question. How do you see him taking this Eagles offense to the next level with what he brings?
Well, so what I like about him is he's more of an outside receiver, although he can play in the slot. So he's a guy that could play opposite Deshaun Jackson, as well as sort of being an heir apparent to Deshaun Jackson. When you watched this receiver group in college, the only guy that looked faster than Reagor on the field was Henry Ruggs. I mean, all the other guys that are out there, Judy and CeeDee Lamb, they don't play as fast as Jalen Reagor does. And I know a lot of Eagles fans probably thought that they were going to take LSU wide receiver Justin Jefferson here because of all the mock drafts. I'll just say, like, the Eagles, Howie Roseman, Doug Peterson, they know that Jefferson's available. Like, they're aware that Justin Jefferson is available. They liked Reagor more. Good job, by the way, by the Eagles keeping that quiet, not letting that leak out. You didn't see that anywhere. You didn't see him getting mocked to the Eagles. People didn't know that he would go this high. The Eagles could have had Justin Jefferson. They could have had Kenneth Murray. They wanted Reagor. This is the guy they targeted over all the other guys they could have had that were available.
And I think we actually have a tweet from Carson Wentz, the quarterback that Reagor now gets to play with. Very excited to have him in their offense. Let's go, bro. Welcome to Philly. Big things coming. Fly, Eagles, fly. Fran, another toy for Carson Wentz in his arsenal of offensive players. Let's talk just a little bit about the speed that Ross touched on, and speed being one of the things that we talked about last year. The Eagles are an offense that are going to want to get faster. It's no surprise to see them address that in the draft on night one.
This is a team that wanted to get faster on both sides of the football, right? So we saw that in free agency with what they were able to do with Darius Slay. You get an athletic defensive tackle like a Javon Hargrave. You get a fast linebacker, Jatavis Brown, an athletic safety. You move Jalen Mills over to safety as well. So you have Will Parks there. It's a fast, you're trying to get faster. And when you add a guy like Jalen Reagor, again, what was the first thing I said at the very top of this? He gives the offense a shot in the arm. So, with Deshaun Jackson, without Deshaun Jackson, you've got people that can win vertically, get down the field, make plays in the vertical passing game. I can't wait to see him and how he's used in this offense. I cannot wait to see the route combinations that they're able to work with both Deshaun and Jalen Reagor on the same side of the field. And by the way, look, I don't know. When I'm watching these guys, I'm always thinking independently. I'm watching it and it's just seeing how I feel. I'm not going to lie. When I put on this purple tie, when I put on the purple shirt, I've got purple socks on, part of me did wonder. I wonder if Jalen Reagor would be the pick. And to me, you add a guy like this to this offense, he's going to be a really, really impressive game breaker to this team.
I like it, Fran. I like tipping the pick a little bit there with the purple shirt. That's awesome. I just can't emphasize enough what a difference it makes for a team when you have a deep threat versus when you do not. And the Eagles realized that last year. Think about the difference between when Deshaun Jackson played in the opener and then the injuries after that. So you're going to get a young guy now who has some similarities to Deshaun Jackson in Reagor, his ability to be able to get deep and take the top off the defense. Sometimes those guys don't even need to catch that many passes. Just have that threat so that they have to have safety help over the top to that side. The Eagles really missed that a year ago after Deshaun Jackson got hurt. Deshaun's 34 years old. This gives them maybe 2 this year, maybe 2 for a couple years, but it also gives them an heir apparent to be the longtime deep threat for Carson Wentz over the next 5-10 years.
And as tweets continue to roll in from Eagles players who are really excited to have Reagor on the team, Lane Johnson also chiming in as well. Welcome to the squad, Jalen Reagor, another Texas native. Let's fly. Hashtag NFL draft fly, Eagles fly. Love to see that. Texas football. So funny because I was just tweeting about how great Florida football was. But let's go back to the prospect here. What can you... what was my question for you, Ross? About Reagor off the field. I know that he's a competitive guy, and I know that he loves to kind of bring the juice and get in guys' face a little bit, but what can you tell us about the kind of person that he is?
Yeah, I feel like all these TCU guys are the same. I don't know what they do there, Gary Patterson, but on the other side of the ball during the pre-draft show, Fran was talking about TCU corner Jeff Gladney. All these guys, those guys, I can't even imagine what practice was like for Reagor going against a guy like Gladney because they're both feisty. They're both fiery. They're about the exact same size. I picture those being absolute battles, absolute wars. And I'll say this too. I like the fact that his dad played 8 years in the NFL. I joked earlier about the age thing and making me feel old, but he knows the deal. Like, he grew up around it. His dad played 8 years. He's going to know what it means to be a pro. That's a really important part of this. I was talking earlier in the week on Fran's podcast about the things that separate guys in the NFL, and one of them is their professionalism and understanding just how important it is that you have a routine day in and day out. Well, Reagor's already way ahead of the game there because his dad's going to tell him that if he hasn't already.
He's been preparing for this moment his whole life, right? I mean, he's like you said, he was around it. It's not like he was a little baby when his dad was in the NFL. He was a kid. He was around. He was taking everything in. So, certainly something that he's able to kind of live up to, and he was able to observe that at such a young age. When you talk about him off the field, again, when I was around him at the combine, I was super impressed with him and just how composed he was. Really, really impressive kid on a personal level, and you didn't hear anything but great things about him coming out of TCU. So to me, really, really excited about looking at what Jalen Reagor can be in this offense. And one of the things too, when you look at him into his speed, it's not just about deep ball, deep ball, deep ball. Yeah, that's going to open some things up underneath for Zach Ertz. And he's going to open up some things underneath for Dallas Goedert, for Miles Sanders in the intermediate passing game as well. So don't take away the fact that when you have a guy like Deshaun, you have a guy like Reagor, those guys can open things up for other players as well. So when you have a Jalen Reagor, the guy that has that long speed like that, that's going to help everybody on the offense.
All right, and Reagor chiming in himself on Twitter with his excitement about joining this team as well. No surprise there. So many people really excited to have him a part of this team. Hyped to join the Eagles, ready to get out there and do my thing. Check out my Panini Instant card here. Okay, hashtag sponsored, I guess. So very, oh, that's such a great picture. That's really cool. That's really neat that these guys have that. Okay, so a couple of things about what the Eagles are getting in this guy. He finished his career, a 2-year starter, finished his career second in school history in touchdown catches with 22, sixth in receiving yards with 2,248, despite, like you mentioned, that underwhelming 2019 season with a true freshman quarterback. And then in the return game, the Eagles love those players who can contribute on special teams. 17 yards per punt return in college with a pair of scores as well. Fran, I'll go to you with this one, and then Ross will have you chime in after. The Eagles are big on the special teams contributions from everybody, but how much more valuable does that make this pick?
Well, it just adds to his versatility. We talk about it, can a guy line up inside, outside, in the backfield, all the things that he can do on offense. But having that ability to be a 4-down player certainly adds to his value. And you like guys that take that role seriously, right? So it's not just about, can he be a returner if we need him to? Sure, okay, that's fine. No, he can go out, he could be a gunner, he could be a jammer. He has that skill set in his toolbox. And the other thing, too, there are a lot of players where you say, well, he's got the skill set to be a punt returner, or he could be a kick returner. The fact that he's proven that he can do it at a high level, that's a really good sign for a guy, when you're trying to project that to the league. Not as much projection involved there. There's not a lot of guesswork. You know that he can do it. You've seen him do it on film at a high level of college football.
Right. It's almost like, Fran, you're getting 3 positions in one here, because you're getting a receiver. I mean, look at that double move right there. Just leaving that cornerback absolutely hanging. You see the speed, but you're getting 3 positions in one here, because I think there's a very good chance he will be the punt returner and kick returner from week 1. And he's able to do so many things as a receiver as well. We've already seen, just in the highlight clips here, the toe tap catches, the double move deep threat, being able to go up and climb the ladder and make a contested catch. And then when he gets the ball in his hands, everyone you talk to mentions he's like a running back. I mean, he's kind of got that body type, and he just absolutely runs by people. Can't emphasize enough how impressive his play speed is, which is way more important than what your time speed is. When you watch him play, people thought he would be in the 4.2s, 4.3s and have a chance to set the record. That's how fast he was on the field for the Horned Frogs.
I'm so glad you keep emphasizing that Combine 40 doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. Let's talk about his versatility. Or you mentioned, Ross, his versatility and how many things he can do on the field. When you think about a creative offensive play caller like Doug Peterson, what do you think the potential is for Reagor in this offense?
Well, there's a lot of things. I can see, number one, them giving him some jet sweeps when he comes down, motions down, and just to keep the defense honest, right? You never know. Are they going to hand it to him? They can fake him the jet sweep. They can do some ghost motions, orbit motions, they call it, behind the formation. He's sort of a gadget player in the sense that they can use him in a lot of ways. Look, we know what it's like when you game plan for an opponent. And I'm just telling you right now, when any defensive coordinator game plans against the Eagles, they're going to say, got to look out for the Reagor kid. Got to look out for him. If he gets the ball in space, he's gone. They can utilize him in a lot of different ways. Watch out for the wide receiver screens. They'll get him some slants, some underneath stuff because of how good he is. Run after the catch. They really haven't had that guy. They really don't have that guy. Even Deshaun Jackson is more of a deep threat. We know what Alshon Jeffrey and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside are. Greg Ward, more of a slot guy. They don't really have, Amy, that dynamic guy that can catch passes underneath and then go a long, long way. My guess is that Doug Peterson wanted to add that to his offense. He wanted one more tool in his toolbox.
And real quick, I mean, you talk about, I think a lot of fans out there, they're aware of what it means to stretch the field, and you be a vertical stretch guy, okay? So you think of the field, vertical stretch, working vertically downfield. But there's also the horizontal stretch aspect of it. And when I say that, that means going across the width of the field. So you talk about jet sweeps, you talk about orbits, the reverses, the screen game, okay? So stretching everybody out from sideline to sideline now opens you up in the middle of the field. And the Eagles are really good at doing that already. Now adding a weapon into the fold like a Jalen Reagor, that's going to open up a lot of space in the middle of that field, because you get those defenders moving sideline to sideline, reacting to motions, reacting to all the threat of what Jalen Reagor could be on the perimeter. Now that opens up the middle, that opens up the slot, that opens up the tight end, the running back, even in the run game, that opens up a lot of different things for Carson Wentz and this Eagles offense.
All right, fantastic conversation, gentlemen. Ross, I'm going to let you go. We will be checking in with you throughout the next couple of days, so we will see you tomorrow. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, and of course, we have plenty more coming at you throughout the next few days. We will be back here tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m., 30 minutes before the draft starts, to get you primed for another night of draft action. And of course, we will be going live with instant analysis after every single pick as well. You won't want to be missing that. But stay with us tonight, because Howie Roseman, Doug Peterson, and Andy Weidel will be doing their press conferences to talk about the new Eagle wide receiver Jalen Reagor. That will be, of course, on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, our mobile app, and all of our social channels. We will be carrying that live. And then later on tonight, Jalen Reagor will be doing a press conference. We will be carrying that live in all of those same places as well. So be sure to keep following us throughout the weekend. We have so much good content for you and stuff you're not going to see anywhere else. All right, with that, I will say good night. But the night is not over, because you have more conferences coming tonight. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.